Before we start and go on our magical adventure together, I want to take a second to clarify something. There's a reason I added an asterisk in the title of this video. I'm not actually a developer. I'm still more than qualified to talk about the game, however. Not only have I played for a lucrative amount of time, am one of the oldest and most active members in the community, and pioneered level design when no one else knew how to build fun maps, I also built over half the maps for the game and curated the other half. The only level I didn't get a say in its inclusion was Prague, and that's solely because it's been in the game longer than I've been playing for. So while I may not be a developer, I still know more than enough about the game to make strong commentary surrounding it. However, my commentary is not official, so take it with a grain of salt. What I say here may not reflect the views of the actual developers. While some may say I know the game better than them since I play it far more than them, it's still not necessarily the official stance. It's just my stance. So with that disclaimer out of the way, how about we dive into the first level?
Here we are. Remember, the goal of this map is to get the highest score possible, so try to make sure that all of the trains run on time. Take it slow and have fun.
Wakefield is the first map that I built for the game. It is not the first map that I ever got included in the game. That would be Waiting the Willamette. Nor is it the first map that I ever built. That would be Iron Falls. However, this is the first map that I built with the game in mind. So what this is supposed to be is sort of a basic tutorial, or more a test of your knowledge. In order to pass this level, you need to know the very basic mechanics of the game. You need to know how to route trains, how to check timetables, how to throw switches, how to use manual signals. You just need to know the basics, else you will not be able to pass this level. Now, because of this level's difficulty, the developers are actually turning it into a tutorial of sorts, and I'm really glad about that. I think that timetable mode is a huge part of this game, and while endless, is endless, there are hours upon hours upon hours of content in there. Timetable mode is the glue that holds together the community. If you look at the maps that people make, it's mostly timetable. If you look at the popular levels, it's all timetable. You rarely see an endless map on the front page of the Steam Workshop. And that's because it's fun for both the map creator and the player. The map creator has to be creative, work out this timetable, and make this puzzle level, and the map player has to figure out how to solve it. And the tutorial we currently have, the endless tutorial, don't get me wrong, it's good, it's nice, it's very robust, but it doesn't tell you anything about timetable mode. And so I'm really happy to see that there's this sort of direction in getting a tutorial for timetable mode. However, on the flip side of that, the current tutorial that we're hearing now, Josic talking. Now, Josic is good, but the current dialogue we have right now isn't. It doesn't actually tell you anything. If a player came into this trying to learn timetable without any prior knowledge of the game, they wouldn't learn anything. They would just learn that Josic came down here and got hot chocolate at the local bakery occasionally. And that isn't informative. That's just flavor text. It's not nutritious enough. And so I really hope that they actually add some substance to this. But even if they do finish this for Wakefield, I don't think it's going to be enough substance. Timetable as a game mode is insanely complex, and there's so many intricate little rulings and details and things about how the game works that you really need to know if you want to become good at timetable and play some of the harder maps in the game. And Wakefield is a great introduction to that, but it's just an introduction. It's not a complete class on how to play timetable. You don't learn about things like auto signals. You don't learn about auto reverse on dead-end platforms. You don't learn about auto blocks. There's no tunnels. There's no perpetual routing queues. It just teaches you the basics and nothing more. Now, when I first built Wakefield, I had this in mind, and in fact spread out most of the mechanics that players would need to know across the first 5 levels, and we'll talk about them more when we get to them. But that way, you don't just have an information dump all at once. And I think if we want a truly perfect tutorial for timetable mode, it should not be limited to a single stage and should instead be across those 5 maps. Maybe one day we'll actually get that good tutorial. For now, though, how about we talk about this level a little more? You know, it's got a pretty interesting history to it. For example, did you know that Wakefield was only built around 2 months prior to the game's release into early access on Steam? That's right, just 2 months. Before this, we only had 3 maps in the game, and those maps were Prague, Washington, D.C., and Wading the Willamette. Wakefield was map number 4 2 months prior to the game's release. Wakefield was level 1 of 10 provided for a special giveaway at the end of the demo. This giveaway was very simple. We would add a new map, players would play it and submit their scores, and at the end, if you had played at least every single level, you would be put into a little raffle of sorts, where we would draw from a hat and 3 winners would get free copies of the game. If you also managed to get a perfect score on every one of the 10 levels, you would get a special role in the Discord server. A lot of people wanted to get this role. However, one level was kind of holding them back, and hilariously enough, it was the easiest one of them all. Wakefield. You see, around 2 months before the game's release, but after Wakefield was released, a new mechanic was added to the game called signal stopping penalties, and if you've played this game very much, you can know how much of a pain these can be. For Wakefield and older levels, sometimes it completely broke the level. Wading the Willamette became impossible, and we had to really nerf it, and Wakefield also became impossible because of an interaction between Regional 09 and Commuter 33. You see, they're both headed for West Arnold, but the commuter train either had to slow down for the signal and stop in order for the track ahead of it to be cleared, or it would run through the signal before the track ahead of it was cleared and get penalized either way, and thus you had to beat the level with 119 max score. For perfectionists, this was hell. If you wanted to beat this level, you couldn't, or you had to find a way to break the game. And we did eventually find a way to break the game, but it wasn't a fun method. It's called stop and reverse abuse for a reason.
Wow, I really didn't see that when it was so fast. Good job.
See, we made a mistake, I think. That mistake wasn't stop and reverse abuse. I do not like that. It does ruin certain levels and it is not fun, but the mistake was signal stopping penalties. Not the mechanic as a whole, but how we intended for it to be used. At the time, as this cool new mechanic for timetable mode, it was supposed to be something that completely changed the way the game worked, and that everybody would start building levels around it, when that's not what this game is for. Signal stopping penalties are a cool way to add a little bit of difficulty to a train, a little bit of priority to a single train, but when it's on every train, you have to keep track of so much to make sure that the train isn't even slowing down for the signal, and that is insanely difficult and insanely stressful. Signal stopping penalties, when applied to every train, completely change the way the game plays out, and not in a good way. We failed to recognize it then, and so instead of trying to keep them out of a map that wasn't built with them in mind, instead of trying to keep them out of Wakefield, we forced them in, and it damaged the level, and we had to fix it in another method. The way we fixed it at the time was to shorten the trackage between West Arnold and Wakefield. That way the regional train can clear the track before the commuter starts stopping at the signal and starts getting penalized. Recently, I have changed this to just actually removing signal stopping penalties, and I think the level is way better without them. Don't get me wrong, I don't think signal stopping penalties is a bad concept. I just think the scale and scope at which it is forced into the game is a problem. It should be a secondary thing that is turned on occasionally rather than rampant and all over the place. So, hey, if any of the actual factual developers are listening into this, can I make a simple request? Can you just have it so signal stopping penalties aren't turned on by default in the editor? Personally, I just turn them off anyway, so what's the point of having them on in the first place? And for a lot of new creators, they don't understand how damaging this feature is to their level and how much difficulty it actually adds. There's a lot of good levels on the workshop that are just completely destroyed because somebody didn't turn off signal stopping penalties, and I feel like they shouldn't be on to begin with. This is just such a simple change that would make such a big difference in the quality of levels that people in the community are making, especially newer creators.
Oh, how I miss this place. This was one of my first ever posts as a dispatcher, you know. I'd always get a hot chocolate at the bakery on the way to work. Good times.
I think that about does it for this level. I've talked a bit about the tutorial, a little bit about its history, and a little bit about what broke it. There's not really too much else to say, It's just level 1. It's the most basic level in the game. What is there to talk about, So I guess I'll bring something else up. Josik. He went down to the bakery to get himself a hot chocolate. Well, I used to do something similar. No, Josik's character is not based on me, but I used to go down to the local cafe with my mother, and I would always get a hot chocolate once a month whenever there was a late start for school. We would have 2 hours together, and we would just play board games. Things such as Uno, Set, and one of my favorites, Ticket to Ride. That's not at all relevant to the level, but I just thought it was cute, I guess I can wrap this up with something actually surrounding level design. Hey, would people like video tutorials on what makes a level good, what makes a level bad, and just how to use the editor in general? We don't really have tutorials, period, and I'm not sure how easy it would be for me to make those, as I'm already doing the developer commentary and some other things for the game, but it would be a good way to let players learn this stuff and to help increase the quality of levels in the community as a whole. We've been having a lot of people who have been doing really well with levels recently, but we've also been having a lot of levels in the workshop that nobody wants to play and are instantly forgotten. And so maybe like a guided list of the do's and don'ts of level design would be good. I'd like to hear what you people think. I might not have the time to make it, but it could be cool to consider and maybe try in the future. So if you're interested in that, let me know down below with a simple comment. I've made some informational guides in the past surrounding this, but those are so outdated that at this rate it's probably best just to start fresh and do a whole new thing,
That's it. You've done it, and a great job you've done, too. That's a good score. I guess we better get back to work now, huh?
Well, folks, that's everything. I hope you found this interesting. If you did enjoy it, why not subscribe? That way, when episode 2 comes out, you'll be notified, and you'll be ready to watch a video talking a little bit about how Endless affected the early level design, how signal stopping penalties screwed over a couple more levels, and how there's a 5th secret hidden train type not available in the editor. If you'd like some more train game content, let me know in the comment section below. If enough people are interested, maybe I'll record some railroads online and show off some of the crazy track work I've done. Regardless, I'll see you in the next episode, Daytona. Cheers, folks.